G'day coaches. Well, it's out. Evolve Rugby, an online coach development course based on 100 plus interviews from this very podcast. Are you a club coach looking to continually develop? Do you want to increase numbers to training, be more adaptable, be able to coach to a variety of skill levels, and save time? Then check out the link in the show notes for a sneak peek of the Evolve Rugby online coach development course. Also, sign up to the newsletter so you can receive the latest offers. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, but for now, kick back and enjoy the episode.
You're listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast with your host, Andy Plimer. Bringing you up-to-date coaching concepts from the world of rugby. Sharing ideas to make the game better.
Welcome to episode 111 of the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. I'm your host, Andy Plimer, and joining me today is Ricky Dumigan. Ricky is the assistant coach at the Red Hurricanes in Japan and has also had coaching roles with the Sunwolves, Kurita, Ricoh Black Rams, and a bunch of other clubs around the world. He's from Australia originally. He's had a wide range of coaching roles in the ACT, Victoria, and Queensland, and it's a pleasure to have him on the show. So welcome, Ricky.
Thanks, mate. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's good to chat, and great to hear an Aussie accent. We're both opposite sides of the world, not anywhere near Australia, so good to hear it.
Yeah, it is, mate. It is good, very good.
Yeah, cool. And so just before we get into your coaching, what's a bit of your backstory on your playing career and where did that take you, and what were those experiences like?
Mate, I started playing rugby younger age when I was 5 or 6. Dad, probably like many, my dad was a coach for the first 6 years. Went to a rugby school, secondary school, went to Toowoomba Grammar. And then post-school, mate, I actually joined the military. So I joined the Navy for 5 years. I played representative for the Navy team, played combined services, and then I was posted to Sydney. So really fortunate. The accommodation where I was staying was right next to Randwick Rugby Club at Latham Park. So, mate, I went down and registered one night at pre-season. They said, could you go to Coffs Harbour this weekend to play curtain raisers for the Colts? I was Colts at the stage for club championships. And, yeah, it wasn't until I got on the bus Friday afternoon that I realised it was Randwick, and which was iconic because I'd been on a tour down there in 1989 with a Darling Downs representative team from Queensland. We went down there and we were billeted out actually from the rugby club, Randwick. My dad was the coach of that team there, and I think Jack was the development officer for Randwick at the time. So
right,
he was cooking the barbecue and organising the billets, which was brilliant. And then, mate, I transferred to the Army 2000, and then continued playing with the Australian Army team and then the Combined Services team. And again, I was posted to Sydney for quite a period of time, so I got to continue playing at Randwick. And then posting to Wagga Wagga, so I played a bit of club footy down there. And then that sort of was in the Brumbies catchment area, so fortunate enough to play a little bit of representative stuff with Southern Inland and the Brumbies provincial team.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's a good area, good kind of catchment area for the Brumbies. Lots of country guys kind of keen to have a crack and see if they can break through the ranks there. Yeah,
no, it is, mate. They sort of, I think there was arguments there for a while with New South Wales rugby because it fell in New South Wales country, but it worked geographically that the Southern Inland became part of that competition. So yeah, it was good to be involved.
Yeah, sweet, awesome. And what about first time you decided coaching? What was the decision you went through to get into coaching? I suppose your dad being your coach would have had some influence there.
I've always just loved the game. So got out of the military. My wife was a soldier as well, so she'd actually been posted to Wagga. I was looking to discharge, and there was a role actually going as a development officer, Brumbies development officer for that Southern Indian region. So
Right.
I went and put a CV together and did an interview. Interviewed very poorly, but was fortunate enough to get the job. So I had a couple of years, mates, and just started coaching there. So it was brilliant. Fortunate enough, the fellow before me had really sort of put some success together, and the program was sort of running along. So it was a matter of just keeping those relationships with the schools and the clubs, trying to continue to grow the game in that area.
Yeah, and that style of coaching too, you're always coaching and you're always coaching different calibers of players, and it would have been a great introduction.
Yeah, mate, 100%, because, you're coaching kids who are learning the game. Then you're going to the clubs and, trying to help coaches coach and see what they're doing. And then I was involved with a lot of the senior teams as well around that area. So, yeah, it was a really good launch pad, I suppose, to get in and just learn from, ground all the way up.
Yeah.
And that helped too. Brumbies were great. They put me on some coach education courses. So I went through and did my I think it's a foundation course now, and then did my level 2 and things like that, which was brilliant. So, yeah, and that sort of really got me into the game, and mate, I loved it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Cool. And after that, what were some of the other roles you had in Australia, and what were some of the big learning experiences that you took away from places like I think Sunnybank was one that you mentioned you've been involved in, those kind of places?
Yeah, so mate, I actually, after the Brumbies, I actually took a role down in Melbourne
Right.
with the Rebels.
Yeah.
So it was initially to go down as a strength and conditioning coach.
Right.
So I was sort of doing return to play and skills with injured players through the Super Rugby, and then of an evening you'd do the S&C for the academy guys, but then I'd be out on field doing a bit of coaching as well with the academy teams. And I got to coach a Victorian under-18s team there as well. So
Right.
it was a bit of a mixed bag of roles actually. And then that again turned into delivering coach education courses, so facilitating smart rugby courses and so forth throughout the whole of Victoria. So it was a bit of a bastardised role in terms of probably jack of all trades, mastering none. Really, you sort of, you'd be on field really early with the super squad, and then of an evening out the backfield with the academy boys, and then facilitating a smart rugby course that night at a club or something. So it was probably for me, it was a really good time to understand, or you get that aspect of high performance because you're working with the main super team, and then but you're also involved at the grassroots level. So understanding, I suppose, the whole process of the program and the pathway that helps lead to get into high performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so mate, then those roles, my wife got posted again to Brisbane, so I went back, and again I was just doing a little bit of strength and conditioning with a couple of the clubs in Brisbane, so Brothers Rugby Club and Sunnybank. Yeah, it wasn't until the opportunity to come to Japan in 2017. Matt Cobain was the head coach at Ricoh.
Right.
So I'd worked with Matty at the Rebels. Yeah, the opportunity came up. There was a role for just initially it was just on-field conditioning, so I wasn't doing anything besides just the on-field conditioning, and then that sort of evolved into a bit of a skills coach as well. So I was doing a lot of work with the 9s and 10s. Yeah, and then, mate, it's just evolved from there. So been fortunate enough to keep going and really chase the dream.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, I'll jump into that in a minute for sure. I just wanted to backtrack a bit there. I was just thinking with your Rebel story there, and how you were exposed to high performance, but you're also coaching a U18 rep team. I think that's one of the challenges too when you're around those environments, and it's a good chance to then, when you coach an under 18 rep team or a rep team of some kind, you can. It's a challenge to try and find the pieces that fit from high performance into a rep team, because a lot of them just won't, and then there's some elements that you can piece out that will transfer fairly well to that younger age group that aren't high performance really. Can you are there anything that jump out there for you thinking about that?
Well, I think straight away it's the rugby IQ and the age of the athlete that you're dealing with. So,
Yeah.
There was some big names down at the Rebels at that time. So you've got, your Sterling Mortlocks, O'Connor, Cipriani, Curtly Beale was there, Gareth Delve, a lot of players that had played at that level. So not that I had really a lot to do with in terms of coaching those guys on field. I did a little bit of work in terms of returning to play with those guys who forever asking questions about the game. But then obviously, young under 18 guys, they're still learning the game. They're still learning to, grow into their bodies and understand their potential. So that was more sort of, I think that role, if you look at it, as more of just inspiring them to be their best and, release the testosterone that's been built up in there, that they can actually get out onto the field and use it in a positive way.
Powerful weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right. So Japan. So Ricoh was the first club you were with. When you first got there, would have been quite the culture shock, obviously, and having to use translators and those kind of things. What were some of the big kind of in that first 6 months, those moments where it's like, oh wow, I've really got to adapt here?
Yeah, obviously the language barrier made us huge. Although we're quite lucky, we had a really good translator at Ricoh. She'd been there for years, and she's still there to this day, Marie. So she was fantastic. During that period, it was probably, because they're large squads over here in Japan. So I think we had probably 50, maybe 55 players in our squad. So if you're doing a 15v15 out on field, then there's a leftover group of players that I might have them been doing a skill group or just a skill drill while the rest of the team's out on field. So the other translators would be out on there. So you sort of had to really learn what the key words were. And I think it was great because it was a real challenge to understand that communication, the simpler it is, the better. And that's more effective. So, yeah, that probably helped. But then also the Japanese, mate, they work hard. They really do work hard. And we'll sort of try to change a little bit of work smarter, not harder. But it's drummed into them at university, So I was overwhelmed by, you think, we do a hard session and then boys will be going out and doing extras. And I go, really? Like, why are you all of a sudden doing extras now? We've just been flogged out on the field. And, so that was a real shock to see them, their work ethic and their discipline. So, it was a good change. And it's different, wherever you go, different clubs, obviously, different environment, different players. I think it's changed a little bit up here in terms of probably intensity. Well, what I've seen in the 3 clubs that I've been involved with here is probably the intensity of training has increased and the duration has decreased.
The volume's dropped,
Yeah, where beforehand probably the intensity wasn't there as much, but the duration was certainly there. So, and I think Eddie probably had a lot to do with that during his tenure here as Japan national coach, and that's continued on with Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown and the lads.
Awesome. And what about? You had a bit of time with the Sunwolves, RIP Sunwolves. What was that stint like? That would have been pretty exciting.
Yeah, mate. So 2018, initially, I got connected to Jamie Joseph through Tamati Ellison. So Tums was playing at Ricoh.
Right.
And Jamie had wanted to do a military-style camp as part of their pre-season. So, and Tums had known that, obviously, my background, and I'd led a couple of those when I was in the Army. We took the Roosters. I think the TARS came out one year out to the barracks and sort of did like a 3-day leadership military-style camp. So ended up going with that down till we went to an army barracks down the bottom of Beppu on the bottom island. And 3 days where we just sort of pushed them to their limits and a little bit of sleep deprivation and some decision-making and so forth. And then ended up really connecting well with the group and got on well with Jamie and Brownie. And then that was sort of in a period where they were sort of splitting their teams. They had a Wolfpack and the Sunwolves sort of
that's
in
right,
preparation for the World Cup. So, mate, I stayed involved in what was meant to only be 3 days. I ended up staying involved with them for a couple of months doing some work, which was brilliant. So it was great to, and still as now, you go to the clubs and playing against, whether it's a top league team or Division 2, seeing those guys that were involved and still being able to say g'day and they remember him. In fact, we've just signed a player here who's just joined us, Willie Blitz, who was involved with the Sunwolves during that camp, and he's just joined us here at Docomo. So he keeps reminding me of that camp game, mate. Now we're not doing any more of that silly military stuff, are we? No, mate. So all has changed, but they remember it. It was a great time, forever look back and think of that period and that time. Mate, it was great. It was a privilege. It was a privilege to be involved.
Awesome. And now you're with the Red Hurricanes. What's a description of your current role there, and what's a week look like for you in season working with the Red Hurricanes?
Mate. So I'm assistant coach here. I do our defence. So Matty Cobain's our head coach here. So Matt was at NTT Com. The last couple of years. So after the Waratahs, he came up with Rob Penny. They were at Com, and the company merged, and so Matt still had a year on his contract. They said, "Would you like to go and be the head coach of Docomo?" And he rang me at the time and said, "Mate, I'd love you to come. Will you come and do my defence?" So jumped at the opportunity, mate, because obviously I knew Matt well. We'd coached together, and I had the opportunity to stay in a director of rugby role with the team I was at last year, Kurita. But I declined because I think, it's a role that probably you'd want to be taking when you're 60 and you've been coaching for 25 years. And where I still feel young and fit, mate, I want to stay on the tools and be out on the field and try and learn a lot more before I take on a role like that. So, so, mate, been here, came up in September. So next week's our first competition game. So long pre-season. And then the competition starts 17th of December. So looking forward to getting in. Mate, now, normal week for us. So Saturday to Saturday game. We're, Sunday's your review time. So doing your own review of your area. So as I said, defences for me. So I'll review our D. Then Monday morning we'll get in. We'll have a coach meeting. We're just going to make a slight change in that now. We'll go into a block that we call MLS. So we meet, learn, or skill. So we're either meeting or we're doing a learning or we're just crafting or honing in on some extra skill. That period then I'll meet with our defence leaders just to go through our review. And then after lunch, mate, it'll be a team meeting. So team meeting, we'll review both attack and D and then split into units. So we'll review our units as well. Then we'll out on field, mate, for what's probably a slower team session. Boys obviously still sore, only 48 hours post game. So and it's any new learnings that we'll take into the new week. Tuesday morning, mate, back in again, coach meeting into team meeting. Normally we preview our attack during that period, and then we're out on field. Tuesday's our bigger day, so we get lots of our contacts and done through that time, and that duration's a bit longer. Team into units training, lunch, and then after lunch, mate, gym and now again our MLS block. So if forwards are in the gym, backs might be in a unit meeting. So we're either in a unit meeting, then we'll do some extra static skills there, and then I've been doing some work just in terms of our contact skill, just on the mats in the gym. We're doing a fair bit of work there, just in. Again, then we'll swap over. So backs are in the gym, forwards will do something similar. Skill block might be again. We might be walking through a new install of their line out, or might be looking to just clarify some ruck D roles or whatever it may be. Wednesday, day off, mate. So normally on the Wednesday you're previewing the following week. So start to have a look at next week's game and prepping a few things there, a bit of detail, what we're looking around. We normally catch up as a coaching group that Wednesday for a coffee and just sort of chat through a few things. Thursday, mate, we're in again, coach meeting, into a team meeting. Thursday's our day. We're trying to execute at speed and obviously bigger squad groups, mate. So we'll split. We'll have our non-playing members. We'll be prepping opposition attack. So we'll check our defence up against opposition attack, and then again, boys are gymming in the afternoon. Captains run Friday, mate, and then if it's an away game, we're travelling Friday afternoon. Game Saturday, and then turn it around and do it all again.
Yeah.
On Sunday and go again. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty full on when you're in season, but sort of just once you've got your routine down pat, it's pretty simple, mate. Just to get in routine and get going.
What about the work-life balance? How's that with that kind of workload there?
Yeah, mate. I'm here on my own at the moment. My family's back in Australia, so
Right.
you sort of feel bad that you're away from the family. But obviously, my wife is very supportive and understanding. But so I still, mate, I'll try and get myself in a routine. Get up early in the morning, either get a run in or get into work early and get into the gym. So you're having a bit of you time and use that wisely to prep yourself mentally of the detail that you want to deliver through the week and what are your key focus points. And other than that, mate, we try and get out and when we can have a beer together socially and just have a chat, which is great. So a couple of good local little yakitori places close by, so we can go and perch up and have a beer and just have a chin wag too, which is great. And we're all in the same apartment block here, so it's quite easy.
Cool.
So so the boys, we just send a message and jump in the lift and meet you in the foyer in 5, so it works out pretty well.
Cool, awesome. All right, and what about you as a coach? What's your favourite part of the game to coach? And if someone was to come along and watch a session, what are they going to see? What are they going to hear?
Mate, I've really enjoyed the last 2 seasons, actually. Probably the biggest area I've learnt a lot just in terms of set-piece defence.
Yeah.
In particular, scrum defence, I reckon, is
Right.
really interesting. It's a bit like chess and just the different pictures you can paint in terms of positioning, for a 9 example. Does he mirror in behind, or do we sit him high and close off a short side on the right-hand side defensively, or and understanding players how they want to defend it, and sometimes because it's more comfortable, or trying to challenge them, what about this image? So that's been a really big learning for me as well. And mate, I just enjoy that aspect because everyone's different too. So the big thing is, for me as a coach, I say, well, what are you guys feeling? Because this is what I'm seeing. So, and it might be totally different, or we might be on the same page. So, mate, I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed that challenge a lot. And then I think just trying to coach better every session and every season, mate, is a good challenge. And you're always looking at finer detail and really trying to, and it's a big thing that I've learned from. I know you'll probably talk about it soon with Eddie, is just actually training your eye to see the detail at training and fixing it then and there.
Right. Yeah. Well, let's jump into that. That's you recently posted on LinkedIn about working with Eddie as a mentor, and I reached out to you and thought it'd be a great conversation to have and something to explore and look into that role of mentorship, because we hear so much about it, about how the importance of it, but I think what it actually is and how beneficial it is something we could really dive into. So how did that relationship start with you and Eddie in terms of that kind of mentoree kind of role?
So mate, I actually, when we were up at Ricoh, my girls were playing rugby actually at a little local Shibuya International Rugby Club, which started lots of expat kids, but also Japanese kids to learn English through rugby.
Right.
And it was started by a fellow called Koji Takamasu's son, who was quite instrumental in bringing the World Cup to Japan.
Okay.
He was good mates with Eddie, and I was just helping out the club doing a little bit of coaching on the weekend. So COVID first hit us then, and our company boys were still doing just a bit of training, and I was just doing that training with them. So I'd reached out to Eddie. He was in Japan. Koji did an intro with me, and mate, it was brilliant. So I went and caught up with him for a coffee, and then, mate, the conversation has just continued. So during those periods, end of the week, I'd coach 3 sessions of skills and whatever through the week, and then at the end of the week, I'd go and have a coffee with him and we'd look at a bit of training and he'd give me some feedback and help, ask me what my planning was for the following week moving into it. And then, so, mate, it's just continued on from there and spent some time with him. And I had the time with the England camp on that recent Wallaby series down back home when we were home for the off-season. So, again, just a massive privilege to be involved, to see that level. And, mate, I sat in on everything, coach meetings, team meetings, basically immersed in the program for the week. And, again, mate, he's just been instrumental in terms of just sharing his knowledge and being really open and direct with his feedback. I can send him a text here, and although I haven't touched base with him since his announcement with England, but he give him some air, exactly. But mate, he's just brilliant in terms of, again, like what are your key focus points, mate? Are you picking that up at training? Train your, like I said before, training your eye to pick that detail up then and there. So Eddie would say to me, you're watching a lot of footage, a lot of training, and I was during that time. Going back over the session, and he said, well, mate, why are you watching so much? Were you wasting time there where you could be watching other games or watching other more in the opposition and actually training your eye to pick up the detail then and there at training? Because he said, you've just watched it live. Why are you watching it again? So that was a real big opener for me to go, okay, well, what is my key points this session? Might be in our multi-phase defences, for example, that we're just looking at good spacing and line speed, so and nomination. So, and I might just be sitting in behind with the boys and who you're nominating, who you got, really challenging them, getting off the line, and that'll be all I focus on for that period of time. And so that was a big change for me, and a real eye opener to, I suppose, develop the art of your meeting. You've just given your focus points to the meeting. Now, right now, I've got to go out and actually see that and fix it then and there on the field if I see an issue. And mate, just to have someone like that as a support mechanism and a sounding board, money can't buy enough. The value that and time that he's given me for that has just been brilliant. And I think for some, you want to have a mentor. Like we were talking just before. You're talking about interviewing Smith and Checker and those guys. So Wayne Smith's another guy who COVID. I did the IRANS coaching course, advanced coach course, a few years ago now. Well, it was when COVID first hit, so it was all online. And I think because of COVID, like everyone was in lockdown, so the calibre of coaches that we had present on that course was just brilliant. So Eddie was on that, Wayne Smith, Colin Cooper, Mike Cron. It was just brilliant. And that really, I suppose, boosted me to say, I really want to be a career coach. And, in order to do that, you've got to try and reach out to the best you can and pick their brains and try and be the best that you can. So, and Wayne Smith, another guy who was just phenomenal on that course, and the way he gave feedback to us. I think that for them, they're forever continuing to learn as well. So they've got growth mindsets, both of them, and then they're wanting to continue to share their knowledge as well. The great thing I like about Eddie is just honest, mate, honest and direct, and that's
no
probably
bullshit.
something he really wants as a mentor. He'll be direct, and then if he's sees some benefit in something that you're talking about as well, he'll go, expand on that, mate. Tell me more. What are you thinking? And
so he's learning as well. It's symbiotic.
Yeah, mate, 100%.
Yeah.
Again, it's a privilege.
Yeah. And if roles were reversed, mate, and you'd been let go by the RFU, what do you think Eddie's advice would be?
Jesus. Oh, look, mate, he's a successful coach, isn't he? So
100%.
I think there'll be many opportunities pop back up, and he's just got to choose the right one, what he feels fits best for him. So, mate, Eddie will be back here in Japan, I reckon, in a couple of weeks. He'll go back and do some work with Suntory, I'd say. Yeah. And then you never know what's going to happen. I did read, and I hadn't really spoken to him about it, but the US, I read that there was potentially a US deal.
That, yeah.
But he's probably the only one that knows what's
Yeah,
going to
he's
happen
he's
there
meant to
later
be
on.
going to about 8 or 9 different places, depending on
Yeah, well, mate, he'd be a wanted
what.
man for sure. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
and
of course.
everyone would be chasing him. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a tough gig. Living your life so publicly as that, and I I don't envy it. I think it takes a special character to be able to live like that, and Eddie's definitely one of those. And yeah, just staying with the mentor role. What if you for coaches listening who are thinking, what I'm wondering if I need a mentor, if it's something that's worthwhile. You've obviously sold it pretty well there. What advice would you give coaches about how to kind of seek out a mentor and try and set up some kind of, whether it be formal or informal, mentorship relationship?
Yeah, mate. I think firstly, you look at the coach who sort of you want to model yourself off, I suppose,
Mm,
in terms of what type of coach you want to be, or who's the best in the field that you're coaching, whatever it be, whether it's attack or you're a head coach or a defence coach, and then just having intestinal fortitude just to reach out and touch base.
yeah,
Yeah, and then go from there. I think it's looking at someone and pretty quickly. And this is one thing I did with Eddie, which I'm glad I did, was said to him that I'd love this relationship to continue as a mentor role. I feel really privileged.
right,
I'm not going to be someone that's just going to pester the buggery out of you. So I'm not going to be, but I'd be forever next to your desk listening with his. And he was really good with that too. So I think that helped.
yeah,
And he's got so many young coaches that probably reach out to him at certain times, and the bloke's phenomenal. I'll get a reply back within 5 minutes,
yeah,
sending a text, and I mean, like for a guy that's that busy, he's always got time to reply to you. So, mate, I think outline, your boundaries and your left and right of arc, what you want to achieve out of it right from the start, and if you can
mm,
come to a mutual agreement on that, then mate, it's a great thing to do, because the game's forever evolving, and as a coach, you've got to continue to stay up with it. And if you've got someone that can share their wisdom and knowledge with you, and you're forever learning and can ask questions and share ideas of your planning and so forth, and get feedback from it to make you better, then it's a really positive way to go.
yeah, yeah. Totally
And I
agree.
think
And
the great thing is too, mate, that you get both sides. Like I said, Eddie's got a growth mindset, mate. So he'll always ask questions as well,
yeah,
which is great.
yeah, and just having like it, having to explain something to someone as if they've never heard it before really makes you have to get your comms right and get your philosophy right on that piece that you're delivering. So there's so
Yeah, mate.
much learning going on there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%, mate.
yeah, and I think you raised a good point there about intestinal fortitude. Like nothing's going to happen if you're sitting at home crossing your fingers that someone's going to email you and say, "Hey, do you want to talk rugby?" And I see that every time I reach out to people for podcast interviews. Like there's the majority say yes, and
Yeah,
like rugby's. I don't know if it's a unique rugby thing like that. I kind of hesitate to put us on a pedestal or anything like that. But I think if people are passionate about their sport, no matter what the sport is, they love talking about it. It doesn't matter who to. And if someone reaches out and feels that you're the one who can give them some solutions or have a chat about, often they're as keen and into it as you are.
yeah, mate, 100%. And again, like I said, I think you look at those guys who've really shared their detail publicly, and the guys that Irons do it extremely well. When they get the caliber
Mm.
of those sort of coaches and they're sharing their detail, it goes to show that the mindset of those people. Again, they're wanting to become better and just share their knowledge, so I suppose that the pathway continues for young coaches like myself who can hopefully achieve some of the successes that they've had.
Yeah, and what about locally in Japan across different professional clubs? Is there camaraderie there amongst coaches and a community? Is that building, or is it more within the coaching group that you're with right now?
Mate, look, some massive names up here coaching.
Yeah,
You got your Robbie Deans, Panasonic, Blackadder at Toshiba. So there's a lot of high profile coaches. So I, I don't say there's probably in terms of sharing knowledge, but you're always when you catch up for games, and everyone's keen to share and I wouldn't say there's many egos amongst them up here. So that's a great thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Awesome. All right. Well, we always end the show with the same final four questions. When you were a kid growing up back in Australia, who was one of the players that really jumped out at you and got you right into the game as a fan?
Mate, I was a halfback, so mate, I was Nick Farr-Jones for me. So
Yeah.
I love the way he played the game. I loved his competitiveness, and so I think I tried to be Rick Farr-Jones for many years as a young kid there.
I love it. Yeah, and what a group of players that era was too. Just an
Yeah, it was
amazing
brilliant.
group
And
of
I actually
Wallabies.
remember he came to our school year 12 with rugby lunch and pre-seat. Might have been the launch, and he spoke
Right.
at our. I can't remember if he presented jerseys or not, but he might have presented our first jerseys too. So
Yeah.
getting the chance to meet him as well was brilliant.
Awesome. Yeah. And what about now? Who are some of the players you like watching play?
Michael Leach is one for me
Yeah.
here
Just a
in
warrior.
Japan, obviously, mate, and he's a bit of a Benjamin Button. He's just getting better with age. So
He totally is,
Leachy was. Mate, I think if you look at that last Test series and what he did for
It
Japan and just
is
the way he
unreal.
played, like the
Unreal.
guys,
All the Australia A games, I'm like, this guy is an animal.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, he's had a hip replacement. He had a hip replacement, I think,
That's
like
insane.
18 months ago. So,
That's amazing.
again,
Wow.
his work ethic, rugby intelligence, the way he plays it, like forever competing. He's tough, he's
Mm,
skillful, and the most important thing, mate, he's just a genuine terrific human off the field
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mate, I enjoyed meeting him with the Sunwolves, and then I really enjoyed watching him play this last
Mm, yeah.
few seasons.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. And third question, what about a high profile coach? You've already mentioned Eddie. What about another high profile coach that you like how they run their operation and respect what they do?
Mate, obviously, I'm fortunate. I'm coach here with Matty Cobain, so
Yeah.
Matty's knowledge and detailing around his line out and set piece stuff, I think, is world class. Obviously, he was a world class in terms of that himself as a player for the Wallabies.
Yeah.
So mate, and that's one element of the game, that I've really tried to get an understanding of as well, especially last year, like the first time as a head coach, and had a young, all my coaching staff were all first year coaching. They just finished their playing careers. So I had Wycliffe Parley was my forwards coach last year, and Cliffy probably had never really jumped in a line out in his life. So, and you're having him coach your line out. So I've really enjoyed learning the art and science, I suppose, of that. And Matt's been brilliant in around that.
Awesome. Awesome. And then final question, who's someone in the grassroots plugging away, growing the game that you feel deserves a shout out and some recognition?
Mate, it's probably a young guy in Sydney who I think will go on and be a really good coach, and Nick Kellaway,
Okay.
brother of Andrew. So
Right.
I first met Nick. He was playing at Ramwick, and then he was doing some coaching. He's done a little bit of the Gen Blue stuff for the Waratahs. Went and coached at North Sydney last year, and he's just been promoted as the forwards coach for first grade. Intelligent guy, great communicator, and I think he'll be a good coach one day. I think he'll be a really good coach one day. He's probably got all the characteristics and attributes to be a successful coach.
Awesome. All right, Ricky. Well, it's been awesome chatting with you, mate. Really enjoyed this one, and great to hear about the role that you and Eddie have and the importance of it and all those valuable lessons that you've taken away from it. And I think it's, so important. I've got someone like that who I've lent on a lot with my coaching as well. And it's just a really key role, and encourage all coaches to seek out a mentor of some kind. So thanks a lot for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Awesome. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Rugby Coaches Corner podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review via iTunes and keep listening for the next episode. You can also follow us via Twitter at Rugby Coaches CNR or via the website therugbycoachescorner.com. Until next time, keep sharing ideas to make the game better.